Hey everyone, Carlopix here, and today I thought I'd do a tutorial. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time on French beaded flowers, and this is actually part of a color craft challenge. Dearly Crafted, another YouTuber, her link is in the description box below for her channel. We wanted to collaborate on something together, but with our internet challenges and time zone differences, it was kind of hard. So we kind of landed on this, where we give each other a color. You work with crafts that you have in your stash to make a finished project. So yep, French beaded flowers is the one I'm going with today. Here is an example of what we'll be making today. It's going to be a little bit simpler than this. We're only going to make one leaf, and this flower, it's a very simple no-name flower. It just has petals and some stamens and some leaves. It's not a very it's not a real life flower, I don't believe so. But it's good. I will be showing you two basic techniques in making French beaded flowers with this. But yeah, it'll come out really simple. It's a cute little flower. It's very tiny. I used to make this as a business, so I have also turned them into rings. So I made a little ring with it, and I thought it was cute. And it's a very easy project to do. Like, it may seem like a lot, but a lot of it's repetition. And to get the hang of a technique, you want repetition. So that's why we're going to do this flower today. So the color that Dearly Crafted picked for me was yellow. So we're going to be making a yellow flower. And I didn't want just one color, right? I, of course, have to go for gold and, you know, just use as many colors as I can. So I've picked 3 different yellows and a green to work with. And so, yeah, let's go over what you need to make French beaded flowers. You need your seed beads, and these are size 11 seed beads. And if any of you have gotten your beaded cross stitch projects, you finish them and you have beads left over, you can use that. Or you've gotten a beaded cross stitch project and absolutely hate it and ready to throw it up against the wall, you can repurpose those beads for this. So yeah, you need seed beads. You can choose as many colors as you like. I'm going with 4 colors, my leaf, and 3 colors for the flower. But you can do simple, like 2 colors for the flower, 1 color for the leaf. You can make it all 1 color. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you and what you have and what you want to use. It's all your preference. But yeah, seed beads. You do need wire, and yeah, my wire is preloaded with these colors because it does take a little bit of time. But I would recommend 26 gauge wire. It says floral wire because most 26 gauge wire is used for floral projects, but yeah, 26 gauge works well with seed beads. If you want to go smaller, I wouldn't go larger in gauge, I would go smaller, so 28. But realize that if you use a 28 gauge, the wire is thinner and more prone to breaking. So this is a very hardy wire, and it should work with most of your seed beads. You are going to need wire cutters and pliers. Now, I mean, you could have a pair of pliers that has the wire cutters in them. That's cool. If you don't have a separate wire cutters, I do, because this used to be a business of mine. So I've got all the tools. And these are more because you use this quite a lot when you're making a lot of flowers. So I wanted something comfortable, and yeah. So you need needle nose pliers and wire cutters. If you can get 2 in 1, that's pretty awesome. You need floral tape. Well, I mean, you don't need it, but to finish off the stem, you need at least green ribbon. Floral tape is nice because you don't have to glue it in place. You just stretch it and it adheres to itself. But also you know, if you look in the floral section where you get this wire, you should be able to find floral tape. If you have green ribbon in your craft stash already, I would go with that instead of buying new stuff, really. Scissors to cut the floral tape. And this baby. This is one of my pride and joys. You don't need this. I just highly recommend it. It's a bead spinner. And with this bead spinner, it allows you, because you use a lot of beads. Well, depending on the size and type of flower, right? You use a lot of beads and you need to put them all on this wire. And the easiest way to do that is with the bead spinner. If you don't have one, don't fret. You can still dip, you know, you dip your wire into a pot and get the beads on that way. That's how I first started out. Just beware that it takes a lot longer in time. And I quickly wanted to show you how cool this bead spinner was. This is a deluxe bead spinner, you know. This is handmade out of oak, I believe. Yeah, oak. And yeah, handmade bead spinner. There are so many bead spinners out there now. You can get them wooden, plastic. You can get electric bead spinners. They've really come down in price as well. Like this was $80 when I bought it, and that was maybe 15 years ago. They've drastically come down in price, so don't let that deter you. But that being said, I have had this for 15 years and it works like a charm. But let me show you how it quickly works and show you why I recommend getting one, but not necessarily, you know, when you're making your first flower. But if you plan on making many flowers, this is definitely going to be a lifesaver. So you put your beads in. Oh, and by the way, I get my beads sourced from a website called Bellamoto, and I'll put the link in the description below just to give you guys a starting point of where to get seed beads. These aren't Czech, they aren't Delicas, they're on the cheaper side of things. But I found that with Bellamoto, they are, I don't know, actually they might be Czech, I'm not sure. But anyways, with Bellamoto, they had very good quality, very good prices, and they shipped to Australia for a very reasonable price. So that's why I went with them, and I'll put the link in the description below. So I've got another yellow here, since that's my theme, that's my challenge. And you just pour it into this bowl here, you pull some wire off, and you want to make a kind of hook with it. Most bead spinners come with hooks because people use them for like making necklaces and jewelry, and those hooks have an eye on the end like a needle, so you can put, you know, you thread your thread onto the hook and then use the hook to put the beads onto the thread. So what you're going to do, you're just going to give it a spin and you dip your wire in, and you can see that it goes quickly up the wire, and that's it. You just keep doing that until you think you have enough beads on your wire. I will say that, yep, just about to say, it does take getting used to for the technique of using a bead spinner. Once you land that technique though, dropping those 2 beads, it's nothing compared to how many beads you'll pop out when you first start using one. So at the start, don't give up. You just need to play around to see what angle works for you, what you need to bend this wire, like to see how much you need to bend it, where to put the wire in the pot as it's spinning, how fast to spin it. All of those things you kind of, you know, work out as you use the bead spinner more. So it's not foolproof in the beginning, but it certainly is after you get used to it. It's kind of like, you know, going from a single placer drill pin to like, you know, 5 or 6 placer. It takes a little bit of, you know, there's a little bit of learning curve there. But yeah, you can see how quickly I added beads to my wire. That's it. That's all I wanted to show you with that, and why having a bead spinner is helpful. Not necessary, but definitely helpful if you want to get into making these flowers, like more than one flower kind of thing. But yeah, we're just going to tie that off and I'll add that back later. So, on to the good stuff, because I have already used the bead spinner to add beads to my wire petals. And like I said, because I was doing this as a business, I have lots of wire. You only need one of these. This one paddle will go such a long way. Like this one has 270 feet of wire on it. That will go a long way for you. So don't think you need one paddle per color. I just made it easier for me to do this video. That's all. Alright, so let's get into making the flower. I will show you. We're going to work from the inside out. We're going to make the stamens first. Then we're going to make this first row of petals. Then the second row of petals. And then one leaf. Alright, so I chose this as my stamens. And I'm just going to unravel some of this wire here. And this technique is just called the loop. And it's the easiest technique of French beaded flowers. And yeah, hope you guys can see me okay. And so for this particular flower, we're going to count out 10 beads. And I know this is going to be hard to see, but trust me, I'm counting out 10 beads. There. So I've got 10 beads, and you want to kind of drop the rest to the back and then slide these up. I have 10 beads here, and you're just going to make a loop. So you're going to bend the wire, and you're going to make a loop. Just like that. You're going to close it off. And then you're going to give that 2 twists. Or 3. Or 4. However many you like. That's it. That's one stamen done. And you cut your wire. Boom. That is the easiest technique. I don't know if you guys can see that. No, that's yellow on a yellow hand. Okay. Right there. That's one stamen. We need 4 of these. And that's pretty quick, you know. That only took a few seconds to make. So I always make a knot in the end of my wire to keep the beads from falling off. Let me pull out some more slack. Count 10 beads. So 5 and 5. Slide them towards the end. So you do need a tail. I don't know how many inches that is. What, 3 or 4 inches? Good to have a 3 or 4 inches tail throughout your project. You're going to make a loop. And I use my finger to hold it closed. And you see how it's misshapen? It doesn't matter. Just twist to lock it in place. And that's it. You can cut that from your spool. And that's 2. So I'm going to go ahead and make the other 2 really quickly. Okay, so that's all 4 of the stamens done. I'm just going to tie that off so my beads don't go flying everywhere. And we're done with that color. The next color I'm going to use is this darker yellow. And that's going to be for the petals on the inside. So there's 4 petals. You'll need 4 of these. And this technique here is the one that you will use the most in French beaded flowers. Like the absolute most. Most petals will use this technique I'm about to show you. Alright, so hope you're still with me. What you're gonna, it's a petal. And you might see in some of the books PTRB, which means pointed top, rounded bottom. So I'm about to show you what that means, or show you why it has that name. But anyways, in most books you'll see how many rows you need and what your base row, how many beads you need for your base row. So for these petals, for your base row, you're going to need 3 beads. So you just take 3 beads and slide them down towards the end. And that's your base row. So you want a little bit of slack because you need to work this tail in, and you need something to work with. So slide your beads up. Whoop. Take your 4 fingers here, and then you're going to wrap the wire around your 4 fingers to make a loop. Like we just made before with the stamens, you're going to make a loop, and then you're going to twist. Twist a couple of times to lock that in place. And then you should have something like this. You want to straighten it up as much as possible to make it like a straight line. And then we're going to start actually forming the petal. So this is row 1 of the petal. 3 beads. Now, so I usually work from left to right. We're going to make row 2. What you're going to do is you're going to push a bunch of beads down towards the end and make sure that they touch the first row. And you're going to bring your wire. Sorry, this is a little hard because I'm right-handed. You're going to bring your wire so that it's 90 degrees. And then with your beads sliding down, you're going to bring it over to the top. You're going to cross over to the top, but you're going to cross over at 45 degrees. So as close as possible to the top, you want to have your beads stop at this middle line here, your base line. But you want to have your working wire at 45 degrees. And then you're just going to wrap around that baseline. Just like so. Then you're going to bring some more beads back. And you're going to bring this down. Your working beads. And I turn my wire so that whenever you're making the loop, it's at the top. Here, you're going to stop your wire 90 degrees. Your beads, stop them at where this baseline is. Slide the remaining out of the way, and then just twist it. I hope that was clear. But I will definitely show you again. So the reason for doing the 90-degree twist, and you can see it's still at 90 degrees. When you do 90 degrees, that gives you a round bottom, and that's the RB part. When you do 45 degrees like that, that gives you a pointed top, and that's what the PT stands for. So for this particular flower, you need a PTRB, pointed top, round bottom. And that's to tell you what type of petal you're making. So we're still at the bottom here. So you want to be 45 degrees, or sorry, 90 degrees. Slide your beads up, and you're going to wrap around to the top, just like so. And because we want a pointed top, you want 45 degrees. Take off, like keep as many beads that touches the baseline. You want it to be full from here to the baseline, and then you're going to wrap around the baseline and end with 45 degrees. Now for these smaller petals, we're going to do 5 rows. If you look here, you can count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of beads right now, and we need 5 rows. So that means I need to come back down. Most petals and leaves are always going to be an odd number of rows. You'll never really see an even number of rows because it just doesn't look right. Sorry, let me go back through that again. I just did that without thinking. So you have your 45-degree angle. You push some beads to the top, and then work your way down. Just pull the wire down till it touches the baseline. Remove the excess beads, get them out of the way, and then wrap around the baseline. And because that's our 5th row, I just wrapped around twice to lock it in place. And that is one petal done. It sounds complicated, but it really isn't. And you do this technique quite a bit. But I will go through it with you guys again. So you're going to just clip that and put that off to the side. Make a knot in your wire so no beads come falling off. Because quite often I won't knot up the end and I'll put it down and the wire will fly everywhere, and so will my beads. I learned very quickly. But let's make the next one together as well. So for these small ones, you need 4. No, 4. Wow. 3, 4. So that was take 3 beads, because that's your first row. It consists of 3 beads. You want a tail, and then you want to take your 4 fingers underneath the 3 beads, and you want to make a loop and twist a couple of times, a few times, and you can flatten that out. The reason why I say use 4 fingers is because you need a tail to work with. This is going to attach to the stem and allow you to, you know, attach the flower to the stem and have a base to work with, basically. So you want to, excuse me, I'll move these out of the way. You want to straighten up your base wire, and you should have something like this. You want to try to keep the base wire as straight as possible, because if you don't, as you wrap around the top, the center line becomes skewed, and so your petal will become skewed as well. So you want to try and keep that as straight as possible. So to work on row 2, so row 1 was 3 beads, and that's row 1. Row 2, you want your bottom here to be at a right angle, because we want a round bottom. Slide some beads up from your slack. I'm sorry, I'm covering it. Make sure your 3 beads from your first row are all the way down. And then you're just going to bring it over until it touches the working wire touches the middle line, the base line. And you want it to touch at a 45-degree angle. Any beads past the baseline, you want to push back and out of the way. And then you want to wrap your wire around that baseline. And you still want to keep 45-degree angle. Make sure your base wire is straight. Hopefully you can see that. Row 3, so that's 2 rows. Row 3, make sure you're still at that 45-degree angle. Slide up some beads from your slack, and you're going to bring it down to the bottom until the wire touches the baseline. Any beads after the baseline, you want to pull those and slide them off. You want to make sure you're at a 90-degree angle. And then you're going to wrap once around the baseline. So that's 3 rows. We have 2 more rows to go. So make sure you're at a 90 degrees, because remember where this loop is always the bottom of the petal. We want a rounded bottom. Make sure you're at 90 degrees. Slide up some beads and wrap towards the front. And then wait till once you touch this baseline, that's hopefully straight as possible, should be at a 45-degree angle. Any beads past this baseline, you want to move those out of the way. And then wrap once around your baseline. And that's 4 rows. We need 1 more to go. 45-degree angle, because we want a pointed top. Slide your beads down. And then press it down to move to the bottom part of your petal. You want a rounded bottom, so you want 90 degrees. Any beads past the base line, you want to move those out of the way. And you'll wrap around your base. Because this is the end of our petal, like we've got 5 rows, you can wrap around the base twice. And then cut it off your wire. And that's it. And then make sure to close off your working wire. So here are two of the small petals. Let me get it facing the right direction for you. Two of the small petals. Maybe I'll hold it this way. Two of the small petals. You can see that the beads are a little irregular, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. That's why this is good to use with some of those beaded cross stitch projects, because it doesn't have to be 100% uniform beads to make these look nice. But here's two. I'm going to make the other two now. I'm going to speed through it. Okay, so I've got my 4 smaller petals, the inner petals, and now we're going to work on the larger petals. So let me put that aside. So we've got the inner petals done. Now we're going to work on these petals on the outer edge. The technique is exactly the same, but the count is a little bit different. So I will show you one, and then I will do the rest in a time lapse, because this video is probably already too long. So I'm just pulling some slack off of my wire paddle. Hope that's not too annoying of a sound for you guys. Okay, so technique is the same. Your first row, so for the larger petals, you need a base row of 3 beads. Same for the small ones. But instead of doing 5 rows, you're going to do 7 rows. So let me show you. You're going to take 3 beads, pull them up towards the end, put your 4 fingers underneath, and make a loop. And you're going to tie that off a couple of times and kind of flatten that loop. And then make sure this is straight as well. So that looks about the same, right? It is the same. The type of petal is also the same, pointed top, rounded bottom. So you want, from the bottom, you want the angle to be 90 degrees. And I just messed up my wire. 90 degrees. Pull up your beads. And you want to stop at a 45-degree angle. And want any beads past this top line, you want to pull away. And then wrap around the baseline once. And keep that 90-degree angle. Push the beads down. Bring them to the bottom of the petal, like turn it around. You want a 90-degree angle because you want a rounded bottom. And any beads past this baseline, you want to pull away. And wrap once around the baseline. And keep that 90-degree angle. So that's 3 rows. You're going to keep going. Bring this to the top. Keep your 45-degree angle. Remove any beads past this baseline and wrap once around the base. With the 45-degree angle, pull some beads up. Bring it down. 90 degrees because you want a rounded bottom. Any beads past the baseline, pull them away and wrap once. So here's where we stopped before for the small petals. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. We want 7 rows. So you need to do this one more, like you need to make a full circuit one more time. So we'll do the next row. This is the 6th row. 90 degrees, stop 45 degrees at the top. Excess beads, pull them away and wrap once around the baseline. Push up your beads, pull it down. This is the 7th row. 90-degree angle. Any beads touching the baseline, pull them away and wrap twice because you're done. That's it. So you can see there's a size difference between 5 rows and 7 rows. And that's it. So it's the same technique, you're just doing more wraps. So I'm going to go ahead and make the remaining of these. You need 5 large petals. 4 small petals, 5 large petals. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so that's 5 of the large petals finished. Move that color out of the way because we're done. And now we're on to the last part of the leaves. I have 4 here, but I didn't think it looked right with such a small flower. So we're just going to do 1 leaf. We're going to do 1 large leaf. So again, the technique is exactly the same as it is for the small and large petals. Exactly the same. So let me just unravel it. And I will make this 1 leaf. So sorry. It's a little bit different. I'm sorry, it's not the same. It's a little bit different as far as the number of rows and the number of beads in your base row. So I will make this one with you. So your base row consists of 4 beads instead of 3 beads like the petals. So you count off 4, move them towards the end. You're still going to make the same loop with your 4 fingers and straighten your wire. Technique is still exactly the same. So instead of 5 rows or 7 rows, we're going to do 11 rows for the leaf. So as usual, round bottom, pointed top. So 90 degrees on the bottom, 45 degrees on the top, and wrap once around that baseline. 45 degrees at the top, move it down towards the bottom, and you want 90 degrees. So that's the 3 rows. Just going to keep going. And that's row number 4. Row number 5. You do get quicker the more you have to do this, so. Row number 6. Row number 7. Eight. 9. 10. And 11. And wrap twice. And that's it. That's your leaf. Looks like a petal, but it looks like a leaf because it's green. Yeah. Illusions, right? Alright, so that's all the parts that you need to complete this flower. Just going to tie that off and move it out of the way. Okay. So now here is a tedious part. The trimming of the petals, making them ready to be assembled. Because if you have a look, well, these aren't so bad. These are going to be the easiest to clean up. But if you have a look here, there's a wire at the top and the bottom. What happens with these wires and these wires sticking out here and everything? So we're about to nip all the extra wires and tuck them in, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So for the loops, this is very, very simple. At the top, you want to kind of squeeze your loop together if you can. If you can't, like if you made the loop really tight, that's fine. Like if your beads don't want to cooperate like that, that's fine. Because that just, you know, not all flowers are the same. Yours doesn't have to be either. But for the bottom though, you want to go ahead and twist this all the way down. I recommend splitting it so that you're gripping in between the 2 wires, and then just twist and pull down as you go. And that's just going to twist up this bottom wire. It doesn't have to be neat or even. You just want to make it into one piece instead of 2. And then cut off the loop. And that's your trimmed pistil. Stamen? Pistil, stamen. Crap. I'm not sure which one it is, and since this is a made-up flower, it probably doesn't really matter. This is the middle, and that's complete. So that's all finished off. So you want to do that for the remaining 3. So again, spread the 2 wires apart. You want to close off this loop of beads if you can, and then grip in between the 2 wires, and then you just want to start twisting and pulling your hand down as you go, like pulling your hands apart from each other until you get to the end. Clip the knot off and you're done. I'm just going to continue these 2 right quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so those are done. Now we're going to work on the small leaves. This takes a bit more work. So there's essentially 4 things we need to do to finish this off. The first one, we need to twist this bottom one, the loop that we made. We need to twist that like we twisted these. So you're just going to grab the end and then you're just going to twist away. And it doesn't have to be tight, it doesn't have to be even, but you want to, I guess, go down as far as possible because that just gives you more to work with. And then you want to clip off that loop. So that's the first step. Second step is this little nub here where you cut off your working wire. You just want to take your needle nose and you're just going to kind of wrap it around this base here. You're just going to wrap it till you can't feel it. It shouldn't be scratchy, you know what I mean? You shouldn't be able to feel any wires poking out. So that was step 2, tucking in that wire. Now we're going to move to the top, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Not really, not once you get used to doing it. But you want to cut off this knot and send your wire flying. Then I'll show you on here. So this is the front of the petal or leaf, and this is the back. You can see it has a spine, right? You're going to tuck the top wire underneath the spine. It might be a little hard to see on this little one, and it's kind of yellow, like the color is not the best for video, but I cut off the knot and I'm just going to pull this around and I'm going to tuck it under one of those spine wires, just like that. Then I take my pliers and pull it the rest of the way through while holding onto the petal. It's crucial that you hold onto the petal because pulling this will pull your petal out of shape. So just squeeze onto it and pull. Once it stops, that's it, you're good. I tend to stand mine up so that it's, 90 degrees. Cut it as close as you can. And then take your wires and kind of smooth out that raw edge there. So basically flip it up and give it a feel, and that's it. Your petal is finished and ready to be connected or assembled. So I'll show you one more time because I understand that's quite a few steps to finish off a petal. So the first thing to do was to twist this loop. So you want to twist that. It doesn't have to be even, but you want to twist it as far as it can go, like to make this loop as small as possible. And then cut it off. And then this spare end that you cut from the working wire, you just want to wrap that around that twisted part you just created, just so it doesn't poke out and stick you. That's all. You're just finishing off so it doesn't stick you. Then we're going to work on the top, so you want to cut off the top loop. Turn it to the back, and you're going to tuck this top loop underneath the top, like the spine at the top of the petal. And then you're going to use your pliers, grip the wire, holding the petal tight between your fingers so it doesn't get misshapen. pull the wire through, just like that. Pull it up so it's perpendicular. That just allows you to get a closer cut. Cut the excess wire, and then use your pliers to cut that little, or to move that little nib towards the top so that it doesn't stick you. And that's it. That's that petal done. I'm gonna do the remaining small petals, large petals, and the leaf because the technique is the same for all of them. Alright, that's all the tedious stuff complete. So on to assembly. And as you can see, I started shaping the leaf, and I want my leaf to kind of bend outwards. This is going to be, for made up flowers, this is going to be your preference. If you want it flat, if you want it curled in, there's different ways you can shape it. But yeah, that's how I chose to shape mine. Mine's going to stick out like that from the flower, but yeah. Let's get on with the assembly. So with the 4 middle parts, pistils, stamens, what you're going to do is you're just going to take them all together. I would say grab 2 on one side and 2 on the other side, kind of crisscross them. Make sure that they're even. And then you're just going to twist. This is the easiest part of the assembly. This also helps you form the core. Now, if you're making a bigger flower than this, like a life-size flower, you would also be incorporating 18 gauge stem wire, just to give it more stability and something to hold on to. But here, that means I've finished twisting that up. You can spread them out a little bit, and that creates your middle part there. Yep. And that just creates your middle part, and you can arrange them however you like. I like doing it, you know, hodgepodge, so that, you know, it looks more natural out of beads, right? Next, you're going to need some of that 26 gauge wire again. I have some spare cut off for some reason. I'm not sure why I had cut this off, but I did. I'm going to use it. But you're going to take some more of that 26 gauge wire, and you're going to use this as your wrapping wire. You can go smaller to make it less bulky, but as this is a small simple flower, I wanted to keep it as easy as possible by not incorporating too many different types of wire for you to use. So for the first part, you're going to take 2 of the small leaves. Make sure they're face up, like face in. You don't want the spine to show towards the middle. And you're going to put them opposite each other, just like that. And you want to make sure that the bases line up as much as possible. So if you need to bend it in a little bit just to see how that lines up, go for it, because it's going to bend in anyways. Or should I say bend out? It's going to point out like that. If you want to use that to kind of line up your base of your flowers, go for that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your wire, your wrapping wire, and I usually, you know, have a starting point here, and you're just going to wrap around the base. And because this is your first wrap, I would do it about 4 or 5 times. And then you're going to end up, pull it tight, you're going to end up with something like this. It doesn't have to be completely symmetrical unless you're really, really into that kind of thing. But I would say, I would advise making any kind of adjustments until after your flower is complete. Which, yes, you can still make adjustments. So once you've got those 2 on, you're going to grab another small petal and put it on one of the sides. Again, try to make the base line up as much as possible, and then wrap the wire. And then you're going to do that the same to the other side with the last small petal. And wrap away. So that's 2 layers of the flower put together, the middle and the first row of petals. What I would suggest is that you wrap it a couple more times and then wrap down the base of the stem you've got going here. Really loosely, really thinly, and then cut. That just allows you to not make the top so bulky, because it can be really bulky. Next, you're gonna add on your medium petals. So just take 1 petal and stick it underneath. So basically you want it to hang out. It doesn't have to be even, but it does need to sit underneath, like directly underneath the small petals. And again, you're gonna wrap it. But with these, you're gonna wrap 1 at a time. So I would suggest only 2 wraps. And then you're gonna add the next petal right to the next of the first one. And wrap. And then add your next petal. And wrap. And try to keep it as tight as possible. It's hard sometimes, especially if this is your first time working with it. It's really hard to hold the wire and get it tight. And then I am adding my last petal, and that's just going to go here. And wrap. Wrap it a couple more times because that's the end of that row. And then you want to wrap down the stem. And then cut your wrapping wire. Now you can see why you need a tail to work with on most pieces, because that provides your base, your stem. And there, that's pretty much your flower done. Am I happy with the colors I'm chosen? Well, we'll see when it's done. Alright, so all you've got left is this leaf, right? Now we're going to move on to the next part of using floral tape. You want to do that before you attach the leaves, because the leaf doesn't go right underneath. It's going to go down the stem a little bit. So you want to use some floral tape on this first. And the reason why I suggest using floral tape or ribbon is just that it gives it a much nicer finish than just the silver wire. So I'm going to cut some floral tape. If you've never used floral tape before, it comes 2 ways, like this plasticky one that I have here, which is actually wax, sorry. And then there's like a paper one, but they both work just the same. Although I think the paper one looks nicer. It doesn't look as shiny. It doesn't look as waxy. But you're going to pull it a little bit like that. And when you pull it and wrap it around, it sticks to itself. So you pull it a little bit to get started. And then you're just going to wrap it around. And you're going to pull as you wrap it around. And what this is going to do is not just make it look nicer, but it will secure your wires as well. So I would say go down about halfway. Also, with the paper one, it tends to hide the individual wire markings a little bit more. But I've only got this wax one. Alright, so that's all done. And now we're ready to add on our leaf. And you add on the leaf the exact same way. So wherever you want to position it, I think I'll put mine right here. Yeah, that looks good enough, I guess. That looks all right. And then you're just gonna wrap it around. So wrap it a couple of times, 4 times, and then wrap down the stem, just to secure that wire in place. And then cut your wrapping wire. And then you want to use the floral tape again to cover up the wire you just did. And that can just be a very thin layer. It doesn't have to be on thick. And you can keep going down to the bottom. I usually tend to, and then I like to snip off the bottom, but that depends on what you like. If you like the tapered look, you can keep it like that, or if you want to just cut it, like maybe your stem is too long, you want to cut it anyways, you can do that. But that's, again, personal preference and what you intend to do with these. But that's it. That's the flower. Now I'm just going to quickly show you how you can adjust it to make it your own. So like, I'll show you here. This one, my petals curve in. And with this one, the inner row curves in, whilst the outer row curves out. And it gives you a totally different look altogether. This is the exact same flower, but this one looks smaller because they're curved in. So it depends on what kind of look you want to go for, which one appeals to you most. But yeah, I'm going to curve mine in. So you just want to take it and you just bend it. You just bend it in. There shouldn't be any sharp points. You should have done away with those when you cut them. And used your pliers, so this shouldn't hurt or anything. But I'm going to bend all of mine in. You can bend them in subtly, you can bend them in massively, like, you know, just depends on what you like. But I like it curled up more, I think. So yeah, that's the final flower. You can adjust the spacing and the curvature as you like, you know, just till you're happy with it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like I need to rethink the colors, maybe. Like if I was, you know, making this for my house or for a gift or something like that, the two yellows aren't so drastically different that you can really tell. But I hope this met the color challenge. It's yellow. I did use a little bit of green. I'm sorry, dearly. Had to. I think if I tried to use like a yellowy green leaf, it would look dead. So I was like, I just have to use regular green. But the main part is yellow. That counts, right? Right? But yes, I hope that everyone has enjoyed. Please leave your questions and comments below. I know this was probably kind of an intense tutorial, but yeah, if you've got those beaded cross stitches that you don't want to do, or that you've got lots of beads left over, this is a cute way to use up those beads, I think. So I hope that you've enjoyed, and I will be seeing you. Bye!